All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. Bear with me. If you guys have been following, if you guys are followers, or subscribers, all that good stuff, first and foremost, always thank you guys. And bear with me because I have been traveling. Life's been gotten crazy a little bit, but I am joined here with Chris Martin, very special guest, very busy man, very important man. So, Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate you, my man. I'm excited to chop it up with you.
Heck yeah, man. I'm a pumped to be here. I love talking with you, so this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So if everybody's joining in doesn't know who Chris is the strength and conditioning coordinator for the LSU Baseball Tigers, LSU Tigers baseball team. They just are fresh off their 2025 national championship, number 8, which is crazy. So I know your head's spinning, and you got hired right before the season last year, right?
Yeah, I came in August last year, so
Oh,
right
I get
before the
yeah,
school
before
year
the
started.
fall.
So
That's what I meant. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Sorry,
so
sorry.
I accepted the job on August 9th of last year, so we're just past a year.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, I'm gonna call this part one just because when you and I have met, we have not been in 40 minutes of conversation, been able to just condense things. So I would imagine we're probably gonna have some more conversations here. But I'm excited to learn more about your journey or tell more about your journey, and dive into kind of what led you to landing at LSU and then this past year. And then we'll kind of like wrap that as episode one. And then, you posted something last week that I really want to dive into, and I would love to just kind of pick your brain on, and this would probably be a part two episode, but more on just your philosophy of training and the ideas. And you posted that thing about the polls last week, so we got to nerd out on some training ideas and stuff.
Yeah, we could do that now. We can do that in the future. That's the bread and butter. I can go for days on that if you just let me roll. But yeah, however we get to it.
Good man. Well, start us off. So I know you have a baseball background, and that's really what like kicked off our journey, right? So for our listeners, guys, Chris and I had followed each other on social media and kind of were aware of who each other were. And right before I had left for independent ball, I had gone into LSU and was throwing a bullpen. Chris walked in and we started shooting the shit a little bit. He actually taught me or like kind of showed me a slider grip that I am now using in baseball. So talk to me a little bit about your background growing up, and how you got started with baseball.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Ohio, and it was funny when we got here, literally like a year ago. It was the first time I had ever stepped foot in the state of Louisiana. So
Ooh.
I had never been. We got out of the U-Haul, and I was like, all right, first time in Louisiana, nice.
You just started
Um,
sweating and you were like, oof, did I really make the right decision?
yeah, well, I was used to the heat. We were moving from South Florida, so the climate pretty similar. So
Absolutely
the
true.
summers are relentless. At least I'm kind of used to that. I was there for like 5 years, but yeah, originally from Ohio where we have actual seasons. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
Um, but I grew up. I played baseball from t-ball all the way through college. So pitched at Kent State University for 5 years. I did a redshirt injury year in the middle of that with a knee injury, nothing related to playing baseball. Little touch football ACL.
Ooh.
So yeah, that was an interesting one. But
Was
yeah,
that a
baseball's always
non-contact injury, just like a freak thing?
yeah, that one was non-contact, and I tore my other one playing basketball in high school where I got my foot stepped on making a cut.
Ugh.
That I've had a contact ACL, and the other side was a non-contact. So you want to talk about ACLs? I can go there too. But
Yeah.
yeah, baseball is always a huge part of my life. Like I was a kid in second, third grade. I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm doing like class projects on like the Big Red Machine. And so you
Yeah.
want to talk about like the mid 1970s Reds, like I could have been your guy as an 8 year old.
Yeah.
And I remember going to games at it was called Synergy Field, but Riverfront Stadium before they tore that down. I remember going out walking on the warning track around the field at Great American Ballpark as like maybe a field trip or something before right before it opened.
That's sick.
So loved baseball, big Reds fan growing up. Went to college, pitched there, and during between my fourth and fifth year, so I got a red shirt. I knew I was going to be back for a fifth year, and I kind of got this like fast tracked master's program. So I went out to Cressy Sports Performance up in Boston at the Massachusetts location, did an internship there that summer, which was cool because it's like my first real coaching experience. But I'm also in an environment where my workplace is also a gym where I can train and get ready for my last season. So that was perfect.
That
Did
is
that, got
super
some
awesome.
credit for my master's program. Like silver linings to blowing out a knee in a stupid way. There's always positive outlooks on things like that.
Yep.
But then I guess it was like December of my fifth year. So before the season starts, I get a random message on LinkedIn from a guy named Bill Furcus, who was the director of sports med and performance of the Astros at the time. And he had seen my page, saw the Cressy internship, and just reached out and said, "Hey, we're looking to hire an apprentice position, so basically like a paid intern position at our complex here for the upcoming summer with the it was then the GCL, but now the FCL team. Um, and would love to set up a conversation." And I had actually scheduled myself to go to a baseball pitching strength and conditioning kind of hybrid conference in Nashville. It used to be called Pitchapalooza. I don't think Lance Wheeler puts it on anymore, but I was going down there. Uh, that message was on Wednesday, and I was probably going down on a Friday just for like a weekend in Nashville. So I told him like, "Hey, I'm going down to this. Let's set up a call next week." And he was like, "Oh, perfect. Pete Patil is going to be there," and he was the farm director for the Astros at the
Yeah.
time. So 2 days after that LinkedIn message just popped into my inbox, I'm having lunch with Pete, the farm director. Had a great conversation. Get home from that, do a series of phone interviews, and they basically said like, "Hey, we'll offer you this apprentice position, but it's under the condition that you don't go and try and pursue professional baseball or indie ball or anything like that after it,
Yeah.
because then you're going to leave us high and dry." And I was like, "Fine, perfect, like no problem there." I kind of knew I was getting to the end of the road in terms of my athletic career. So we finish up in our conference tournament that year. 3 days later, I'm driving down to West Palm Beach and get started, and I was drinking from a fire hose like from day one. So did that for that season. Helped out with some of the instructs camps and things after the season, and then at the end of October, when they renegotiate contracts and everything, they offered me a full time spot for the upcoming year, and was supposed to go down to the DR. So this is 2019. 2020, I'm expecting to spend the summer at our Dominican Republic complex, working with the team and the players down there. And then obviously, like halfway through spring training that year, we'd gone down to Florida. We were working some of minor league camp, and then we were supposed to ship off to the DR. And literally, like 12 hours before our flight was when like everything came to a grinding halt.
No
And
way.
so they kind of just were like, "Everybody, go back to your hotels. Like, just hang out
Yeah.
until we get some clarity on what's going on." So we spent like another 2 3 days just kind of hanging out in the hotel in limbo, and then they made the call just to send everybody home. So I had no apartment in the U.S. or anything, or no house or anything at this point because I was planning on spending the next 8 months in the Dominican Republic. So I fly back to my mom's place, which was in Detroit by then. And so now we're in lockdown. I'm in an area where I don't know anybody
Yeah.
outside of my mom and my sister. My sister was a student at the University of Michigan at the time. And so it's just us there for like the first 2 months, and I'm like, "Man, this sucks. Like, I love you guys, but I can't spend all 24 waking hours with you, and that's it."
Yeah.
So I moved down to Columbus, Ohio, with some friends. Spent the rest of COVID there, and we really just worked remotely. So it's like writing programs for players, hopping on the phone with them once or twice a week. I was even with some of the guys that I was tasked with staying in touch with. We were hopping on a group Zoom call once a week where everybody is literally with an iPad or a phone or a computer on Zoom in their living room, and we're just going through like yoga sessions together just to get some FaceTime and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're doing like these mobility yoga sessions, and so that kind of took me through that year. Flash forward to 2021, I was in the DR helping out because we had some staff stuff going on with the COVID, and it was like we're starting to get through it, but it's still very much a thing. We hire a new head of strength and conditioning, and at some point, like emergency circumstances, I had to come back up to Florida, and so now I'm working at the Florida complex, and our new head of strength and conditioning, his name is Nick Shed, had started a couple weeks earlier. So I'm just meeting him for the first time. And then he goes, "Well, I got to go home for like a week, move my wife and our dog and all our stuff down here to Florida. So I'm going to need you to like be in charge of the rehab group here at the complex." Okay, sure. And
Yep.
right at that time, we had our rehab strength and conditioning job had been posted. It had been vacant for like 4 months, like kind of like a hiring freeze type deal with some of the COVID. And there were furloughs in some organizations, layoffs in others. And so now I'm running it. I see the posting and I'm like, I think I can do this. So I literally called him while he was at home and I was like, hey, what do you think about me applying for this? And he was like, I don't know. Like we haven't really worked together. I don't know much about you, but I guess type up a sheet with what experience you have rehabbing guys and send it to me. And so I did. And there wasn't much on that sheet. I'll tell you that much. But they ended up letting me apply for it. I went through the interview process for it, got the position. So did that for 2.5 years, was in charge of the strength and conditioning for all of our rehab guys throughout the organization. And then 2020, going into the 24 season, promoted into the minor league coordinator role. So oversaw the strength and conditioning from AAA down through our DR Academy. Helped out the big league staff. Would go out to Houston every now and then when those guys were on the road and they had some guys staying back. So got some FaceTime with some of the big league team there. And then summer of 24, it was actually the 4th of July. It was 8 p.m. on the 4th of July. My phone rings with a Baton Rouge number. And a guy that I used to work with, his name's Terrence Kennel with the Astros. He knows everybody and everything in strength and conditioning. And a few weeks earlier, he's like, hey, man, I think this role's going to open up. Like, any interest in me passing your resume along? I was like, sure, why not? Can't hurt.
Yeah.
So I had forgotten about that because like 2 or 3 weeks had gone by. And he passed it to somebody I think he knows at the football staff who kind of got it on Coach Johnson on Jay's desk. And so 4th of July, I get a call from a Baton Rouge number, and we were at home watching Netflix or something at that point. I looked at my fiance Rachel, and I'm like, I think I need to take this. So I pick up. It's Coach Johnson. We have a good like 10, 15 minute kind of intro call. He tells me, hey, I got your contact. We're looking to fill this position. I think that's like for the people who think Jay's always on, there's a good example. The man is always on, and
Yeah.
he eats, sleeps, and breathes LSU baseball, which is really cool. So went through some interviews and things like that for about a month. Came over here in August, and now we're finishing up the first year. And like you touched on, can't go any better than winning a natty in year one. But
Yeah.
now we get the task of doing the harder thing, which is repeating and defending a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, your journey is one. So if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
29. I'll be 30 right before the season starts this year.
So that's a pretty impressive what you probably finished school at what, 24 or something like that, 23, 24-ish?
Yeah, so I was 23, which was funny because I get to the complex down there, and most of the guys are like older than me. And
Yeah.
that was back when the draft used to be at the beginning of June, and it was a 40 round draft. And so I show up there like 2 days before the draft. Draft is 3 days, and I remember I'm on the floor coaching. On like again, this is like my fourth or fifth day there, and somebody like kind of walks up behind me on the coaching floor, and I can feel him like standing there, like waiting for me. So I look, and it's Bill. It's the guy who hired me,
Yeah.
and he's got my name tag off the draft board. And he goes, I want you to have this. I tried to get them to pick you in the 40th round, but there were too many people in the room who thought you might like be an asshole and try to sign. It was going to be because back when it was 40, you'd have those courtesy picks every now and then. Like
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel got picked. Ken Griffey Jr.'s son, who played football at Arizona, got picked.
Yeah.
And so things like that happened, but he was like, they thought you would like try and demand a sign, so they didn't do it. So I still got my name off the draft board. But then the draft class comes in, and it's like, everybody's exactly my age. It was kind of
Yeah.
funky. And then a lot of the guys at the complex, whether they were rehabbing or doing different things, like a lot of them were older than me. So, it forces you to kind of grow up real quick in that environment.
Yeah, and that's what I think that was kind of my point was, man, for you to ascend in an organization as advanced as the Astros, right, and the way that they value their information and that kind of stuff is pretty impressive. And I think that speaks volumes too to the respect that you got from those guys, right? And I think something that I heard you were talking about when you were saying was you went through injuries yourself. You played the game yourself. So, and you said something in there, you were like, there's always a silver lining. I think that is a certain mindset of people that probably allowed you to get that respect from those players and ascend with them, right? And that kind of stuff, because not everybody has that mindset when they get hurt. So talk to me a little bit about that mindset and your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, those were two setbacks that you can sit there and kind of think about why me. I think that's very easy to do, and I think people a lot of times will look for others to feel sorry for them. Um, the fact of the matter is, in this world, like, people are too caught up in their own shit to really worry. Like, outside of your close friends and family, like, people
Nobody,
don't care.
they don't care. Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, that's just the
Right.
reality of it. They're too caught up in their own stuff they got going on.
Yep.
Um, and so again, it's not like they were all happy days. It's not like
Right.
everything
There
was
actually probably
always
not a lot of happy days. It's probably, but that's what teaches you, right? And then to
right.
rehab spot, like that mindset.
Right. And again, that's probably part of what helped me is like, hey, I can really empathize with these guys. Like, am I the best rehab coach on the planet? Can I write the best return to play process? No, but I know I can empathize with these guys. I know I have a pretty good sound, strength and conditioning principle. I can learn the return to play side of things, and
Yeah.
I did. But that ability to connect with the guys. So in the rehab role specifically, like, I'm very understanding that, like, it sucks sometimes,
Yeah.
but down the line, I try to get them to understand, and try to get them to, and maybe they're not there yet, but like someday you'll look back, and for some reason you'll probably appreciate this process, and you might not see it now. And I definitely didn't see it right away, but then I look back and I go, well, I'm here as the strength coach at LSU because I was with the Astros. I was with I ascended with the Astros because I believe I did a good job, and the people around me believe that. But I wasn't in that room if I didn't go to Cressy, and I didn't go to Cressy if I didn't get hurt.
Exactly. And that to me is what, my career was like that. And I had a lot of injuries and it forced me to learn a lot about myself. And I think something that I always heard in pro ball was like, know your body, know yourself, right? And that's what it kind of taught me. And I've always been more of an analytical player or, because of that and taking that approach. And then also like found joy in the hard shit that happens, inevitably throughout sport, but then pertains to life too, right? Like you have to have that mindset in life too. So that's why I'm when I hear people speak like that and have that mindset, I want to amplify it just because I think more people can see a different perspective. And I think even like the want to go to Cressy and like go learn because his whole thing is like injury prevention, right? And that kind of stuff and like training through learning the body and the corrective movements and stuff. So talk to me about like the appeal of doing that when you were in college and then wanting to go into that field.
Yeah, so I go into college. I'm an exercise physiology major because, well, first of all, Kent State is not exactly an academic powerhouse. For those who are from the region, they're probably familiar with the saying "Can't read, can't write, Kent State."
Hey.
Um, so, but that's kind of a badge we wear proudly.
Yeah,
Weirdly enough. But
that's all
anyway,
right.
so I go in as an ex phys major because I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do. I like science. I like the human body. I'm very interested in the anatomy and physiology. And at different points, like at one point, I was like, maybe I want to be a PT. Maybe I want to be a PA. Maybe I want to go to med school and become like one of those team physicians. Then at some point, like, I've always been interested in the business side of the just how the world works, but sports specifically. So I was like, maybe I could parlay this into like an MBA down the line, and stick in like the front office side of things. But ultimately, like, through my own injury processes and my own athletic, career, I just love the training side of things. There's something you're working towards. It's not always easy, but if you do it right and you do it consistently, you see results. And I like that. And I think the weight room is like a very honest place too. Like, you either do the work that you need to do or you don't, and there's no hiding it. There's no, like, people online want to sell you all these shortcuts and secret bullets and magic tricks and magic pills, and like, you either do the work in this game, or whatever you're doing, or you don't. And there's no, like, it's going to get revealed whether you have or you haven't over the
Get
long haul. And
objective
that's,
feedback. Yeah,
yeah, and that's part of what I try to instill with our guys. And outside of being a sports performance coach, is like helping guys kind of shape their minds, shape their mindset, and like, how am I going to help them become you know better people, better adults? And part of it is that concept that, like, the world doesn't care about you. You might be a superstar here in Baton Rouge, and that's awesome. But I promise, when I took the job, I didn't know any names on the roster.
yeah,
And I was in the baseball world. Granted, pro and college are kind of separated, but like, the world doesn't owe you anything.
Right.
Nobody owes you anything. No one's going to feel bad for you. It's actually the opposite here, where you're the hunted, not the hunter. Like,
Exactly.
keep now we want to be the hunter, and we believe we are. But people, when we play people, we have a target on our back. So like that's amplified, and then so the people, they're not going to feel bad for you. They want to see LSU not be successful because they want to root for somebody to knock you off and root for the underdog. But if you're going to be the alpha, you need to act like it. And so, like, kind of training some of these mindsets in guys that hopefully manifest itself on the field, but also just in life in general. So, not everybody becomes a big leaguer. Like, how am I going to contribute to society or contribute to my family and all these things that matter probably more or definitely more than just playing a game at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's such a and the life journey is so important, and sport is just kind of like that beginning part, and then the training aspect is really kind of that discipline that teaches you what you need in life. And that was kind of like my next question was, you got an opportunity to start with the Astros and the rehab department, but then become the full minor league coordinator. So you got to see every level. Talk to me, and there's some special players that have come through the Astros organization from your time there till now, or since you took the job at LSU, and then 2025 national championship team. You have number 3 overall in Cade Anderson. You have Anthony Ianson, who's a pretty special arm, and then even physical, people like Ethan Fry and Jared Jones. So talk to me a little bit about some of those elite athletes that you've gotten to coach, and maybe some of those mindsets or the things that you've seen that were like kind of separators for those kinds of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to be around a ton of them, and I don't want to just start like name dropping or things like that because I don't
No, drop some
want
names.
to.
Let's go. Let's hear some names if you have any, but you don't have to. You don't have to.
I mean, like one that jumps off the page to me in terms of a guy whose work ethic has turned him into a very, very high level baseball player is Jeremy Pena. And he was a third round pick by the Astros out of University of Maine. Good player. Uh, but the changes that he made to his body and the progress he made physically over the course of his minor league career, like the guy was and still is an absolute specimen. Like you go see him up close, you're like, dang, this is what a big league shortstop looks like.
Yeah.
And the answer is like, yeah, like he had some talent, he had some ability, um, but then he put his head down and he worked for 3 or 4 years. He was he turned himself into the guy who was the heir apparent to Carlos Correa's throne at shortstop for the Astros, and he was the guy that ultimately made the organization not sign Correa, back in free agency to the long-term deal. Just with the economics of it, they said we're comfortable with the value that this player is going to bring over the next 6 years to this position.
Yep.
So we're going to allocate our resources elsewhere. And that's no disrespect to Correa because he's a great player and unbelievable person too. But um,
And
like,
obviously the organization still feels pretty strongly about him. They just made a trade
right.
too, so that's
Yep.
awesome.
And now it comes full circle, which is
But it
really
also
cool to
speaks
see. And
volumes to Pena too, though, to your point, right? Of like, damn, they really liked him if they wanted to even trade for Correa after not, giving him the money.
right. And that was what, 2020, it was either 2019 or 2020 when he
Yeah.
entered free agent after one of those years. And but like that's a testament. Like Jeremy grinded for 3 or 4 years, and now he's playing at an unbelievable level.
It is.
All star shortstop. Like he's OPSing in the mid 800s now in the big leagues, which is unbelievable because his calling card, for a long time was great defense, great athlete, um, good hitter, had a little bit of pop here and there, but now he's kind of rounded himself into just like a really complete high level major league player who frankly is probably going to be an all-star several more times before it's all said and done. And
Nice.
hey, he might challenge for an MVP at some point. Like he's that good,
Yep.
and that's all through work. It's not he's not a guy like Bryce Harper who came up with the pedigree at 16 years old. Like this kid's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Like those are the people that you're competing with at
Yeah.
the major league level. You're competing with the Harpers and the Otanis, who is the best baseball player to ever touch a baseball. Can't convince me otherwise. I don't think there's an argument for what he does when he's at his peak. Now the body of work, that's to be seen over time.
Right.
But like those are the guys that he's now put himself into that. Maybe not quite that echelon yet, but he's not far off, and that's all work ethic.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I was looking for, and I think that was a great example, but just because, and it's funny because he probably, I think, was it when did they win the World Series when he won the MVP? Was that was his rookie year,
22.
22? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he had a little rough year in 23, right? Or like not really rough, but like, he had to face some adjustments or scouting reports or things. So even
Yeah.
at work, right, to get to the point of the breakout season that he's having now, I think is really cool that you used him as a great example.
Yeah. He's on year 4. And so he rehabbed with us in 2021 when I took up that position. He tore a ligament in his thumb or something diving into headfirst into a game in spring training. And
Wow.
so he spent up until like July or August of that year rehabbing, training his ass off, and then goes into AAA for like the last month, 2 months, something like that season. Kills it, and then he's the shortstop on opening day the next year for a World Series winning team. Also wins ALCS MVP, World Series MVP. And you're right, takes a step back in 2023, kind of that sophomore slump that you hear about.
Yeah.
Even 24 got a little bit better, and then it just like he's vaulted himself now into the conversation as one of the best shortstops in the game.
Yep. No, it's been fun to watch him play, and I hope it keeps growing. Like to your point, right? Some of these guys, when they hit 25, 26, 27, really hit their prime and then into their 30s. So hopefully he's got a nice stretch in front of him that we get to watch him mature for years to come. Now, one of the things I'm curious about, I was very, very high on Cade Anderson his freshman year. This past year, we got to see him truly break out, right? And when you came in August, Cade, by all the rankings and all that stuff, was probably coming into the year as a second or third rounder as a projection, and we need to see what he could do on the field. But then as the season went on, Cade got even better and stronger too. So talk to me what you saw. Maybe was there some things that he implemented that he tried, but he was a pretty special arm, and the way he developed into the number 3 overall pick was fun to see.
Yeah, so I remember early conversations in the fall was like, "Hey, this guy's good, early round draft pick. If all things go well, he might pitch himself kind of into the back half of the first round."
Right.
Like that was kind of
Feeling.
that was like the ceiling. And then I got to know Cade. I was like, I don't know if we know where the ceiling's at.
Love that.
Um,
Let's go.
and he is a guy who's highly, highly, highly skilled. And so it starts with that. Like you got to be skilled, you got to be talented, but unbelievable head on his shoulders, and worked again. Very common, theme here. He worked his ass off from August when I got here until June 22nd or 23rd, whatever the final day of the College World Series was. And it was every day come in, high work ethic, high level of intent and effort in everything that he was doing, not just with me in the gym, but attention to detail in his throwing program, attention to detail with what he was trying to accomplish in here. Very open and communicative with me in terms of how he was feeling, and so that makes it easy for me to make any adjustments on the fly. But he came in and he got after it, and every single outing that he pitched this year, he came into the weight room the next day, and we absolutely got after it. And I posted something at some point. He hit a lifetime bench press PR in Hoover the day after he went 6 innings against A&M.
Let's go.
And so we talk about like when we train our guys, like we obviously there are some traits we're trying to build, but one of those is resiliency because the baseball season is long and it can be grueling, and you play a very dense schedule compared to other sports. It's not like football where you play once a week or basketball where it's 2 or 3 a week. It's 4 to 6 a week, maybe 7 later in the year in the postseason, depending on what's going on.
Yep.
And because of all the work he put in on the front end and then the consistency in season, like he maintained it and continued to take even little baby strides forward physically in season, which is not easy to do when you're a Friday night starter in the SEC. It's very easy to get stagnant in terms of your work ethic outside of just the art of pitching, right? But it was super high level, super consistent, very professional, like no fluff, no extra, but no less. Like it was everything to a T. Get my work in and get out. And he is the ultimate LSU Tiger, local kid, from an hour outside. Nobody, I don't know, there's any player on the team that cared more than Cade did. Uh,
Love that.
not just for his own success. He wanted to do well personally. Obviously, high achievers obviously would want to do well, but he wanted the Tigers to do well, and he
Yeah.
wanted all 39 other guys on the roster to have success. And so like an attitude like that is infectious. And there was a lot of guys on the team. There were a lot that had that mentality, even guys who weren't playing a ton. Like it wasn't the man, I hope the starters don't do well so I get a shot. Like if one of the reserve or backup guys, the guy starting in their position hit a home run, usually those guys were the most excited, which was really cool, especially the catchers. The catchers were funky this year, but man, did they root for each other.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's the kind of little special things that make the team who they are, right? And why you guys win championships. So and those little idiosyncrasies within the team are the fun parts that people will talk about years later. And it's like, oh shit, that's probably why you know what I'm saying? Like, because not every
right.
on plenty of teams, like not every team is like that. So it's always music to my ears when you hear that the guys that are, the frontline starters and the best players are the best teammates and also the hardest workers, right? It's no secret that that's how you become the guy that was maybe the second or third rounder, maybe sneak into the back half to being potentially the number one overall pick and throwing 96 at the end of the year, being stronger than he was in the beginning. So that's really
Yeah, and it like it gradually happened. So we're halfway through the season, and now you're starting to hear about him. Maybe middle of the first round, things are starting to. He's the guy who's trending up, right?
right.
Um, but going into the season, all the talk was Jamie Arnold, Liam Doyle,
Yep.
Witherspoon, probably leaving a couple guys out. But like these are the guys that we're expected to go here in the top 5 picks, and some of them did, or top 10. But then you start to see Cade kind of climb, and with each like release of some mock drafts, a few would have him kind of tick up, and then all of a sudden MLB.com comes out and he's 1-1, and we're like, whoa.
That was
Or
wild.
actually, first it was third to the Mariners. That was the
Yep.
first one where I was like, "Ooh, third overall." That's now we're talking business, and
Yeah.
then it was first, and then it gets into the logistics of team economics and
Yep.
philosophy. When you get into those top 3 picks, it's not quite like football where it's like the best
Yeah.
players going 1-1, or
Exactly.
like the quarterback that is going to be your franchise quarterback. It's a little different with how those signing bonuses are allocated, but yeah. So that at that point we were like, okay, yeah, he's not coming back next year, so that sucks.
We know that.
Um,
Yeah, that's for sure.
because he wanted to come back, but the decision was made for him, and no one's ever going to hold that against him. Like he would have been dumb to not come or to come back to school. But but if he could have, he would tell you he would come back in a heartbeat. But that decision was made, which is a good thing. Like that's a great thing for him and for us. And so like unbelievable story.
No, it really is, and I like that kid from the second he stepped on campus, and so to watch him kind of like evolve into that guy this year was really fun for me, just because I was hoping for that, and it was, I mean, you couldn't have written a better script this year. So we got only probably like 7 minutes left before I let you get out of here. So I got two more quick questions. The last one's going to be a fun one. This one's a little bit more serious. And I know there's probably some secrets of the trade, right, that you guys developed that are within the walls of LSU. But if you could give a general overview, LSU is a very sought after place. And obviously, when you're a minor league coordinator, you're in charge of a lot of important baseball players. Talk to me a little bit about your philosophy of like pitcher training, and maybe you could run through like a Kate Anderson's like day one, day two, day three quickly, not specifics. And then kind of like what you do in season and leading up to the season, philosophically.
Yeah, of course you asked about pitchers. Position players are easy. Hitters are far more straightforward. Pitchers, so there's a lot of gray area with how we train pitchers, and that the ultimate objective is like I'm trying to throw a baseball. Usually, trying to increase velocity for a lot of guys is a big goal, especially with the day and age of today's Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to develop some sort of velocity, a well-rounded arsenal, which goes outside of my scope unless I'm showing you a slider, apparently. Um,
Yeah. Well, I'm a guinea pig.
and
That's why I was like, I was asking for it. So
yeah, yeah, no, I'm not teaching any of the LSU Tigers how to throw a slider.
yeah.
But So we're trying to develop, physicality that's going to lead to velocity, that's going to lead to a well-rounded arsenal, and then like a really well-rounded aerobic base that's going to help them get deeper into ball games. Which you do that by doing conditioning work, but also the art or the act of pitching and building up a pitch count is a powerful conditioning stimulus in and of itself. So there's that piece too. Um, but we build that aerobic base to get deeper into games, but also to recover better day to day or pitch to pitch even. And baseball is a long season with a lot of competition, so a better aerobic base is going to lend itself to a lot of positive outcomes. With building pitchers, there's the old adage like mass equals gas. that's true for a good number of guys, but there's some guys that get bigger and stronger and start throwing slower. And without going into a ton of detail, like it's kind of my job to understand which way guys need to go. So Cade was a guy who, like, mass was probably one of the pieces of the equation for him. Like we need to get bigger, we need to get stronger, not just from a performance aspect, which his velocity trended up the entire year, which was huge. So he was his first outing of the year. I think his average velocity was like 91.9 or 92.1. Maybe that was his first two outings. And then he had like three straight outings in May where his average fastball velocity was over 94. And with that, a lot of it was like the floor kept rising. Like his bottom velo of every outing was like rising throughout this season, which is exactly what we wanted to see.
Yep.
The ceiling, went from like 94, 95. He bumped a couple sevens here and there. It's not like he was throwing 99. I think long term, as he continues to develop physically, like he's going to throw up in the upper 90s and maybe scrape 100. I
Wow.
think that's part of why he went so high was the projectability here.
You haven't seen the
Um,
potential yet. Yeah, that's cool.
again, each guy with pitchers is very different, but it's kind of my job to understand like which direction we're trying to head with them. But we're trying to get be in good shape aerobically. When we do that through several different types of conditioning methods. And then, when we look at their training or, kind of their schedule, I think in season is probably the best way to, exemplify this. And we'll use a Friday night starter.
Yeah.
And this schedule is something that I've kind of played with over the years, might tweak it a little bit, but what worked for us and what our guys like to do last year is basically you would start the day after, you would come in and you would do your heavier, more intensive lift for the week, and you would do a little bit longer of a conditioning recovery at the end of that, but like a low level conditioning. Just the following day, they would come in and they would do a little bit higher effort conditioning stuff. Then the next day, they would come in and we would do some sprint work, some speed, and then another lift, which is more like power, speed, rate of force development focus. Following day, they would throw a bullpen. Day after the bullpen, and on that bullpen day, it was just kind of do your bullpen, get in with the trainers, do your arm care stuff, and that was it. Sometimes people like to pair that with a lift, and there's hundreds of different ways you can go throughout like developing that schedule. That there's no one right way, but I stuck with what our guys liked, and we had good results. So like, why would I change it?
Exactly.
Now that being said, I think I could maybe further optimize it a little this upcoming year. And again, I'm always trying to do things better because second you get stagnant or complacent is when people start to go past you. Um, but then after their bullpen the next day, they would come in and do some sprints, and then they would have the day off before they started, and then they would go pitch again. Some guys like to do sprints the day before they started as like a primer potentiation, so we might flip those last 2 days before their start. But that's generally what like one of our starting pitcher schedules would have looked like last year.
Very cool. No, I like it. And it's still very similar from when I was playing or like, in the structure. But again, to your point, I think what makes you a good coach is having that feel and you've played and understanding the individuality of each player, right? And knowing what they need, when they need, being able to adjust it and using a general scope and saying, this is where I want you to fit into. Let's plug and play if we need to, but this is kind of the plan. So,
Right, and it's always flexible. It's always plan and pencil. Like Ianson, for example, the day after his bullpen actually got an extra lift in each week. It was an upper body session that he liked to do.
yeah.
Clearly showed the dude's a freak.
Yeah.
Um,
I love
and
it.
then like
Everybody's
you go and
different.
look at
Everybody's body's going to respond differently too. Yep.
right, or you go and look like when Cade threw that 135 pitch CG against Oklahoma. Well, he had an extra day because that was on a Thursday and he wasn't pitching again until the next Friday. So we flipped and just did a pure recovery day the day after that. Like that was a really intense, really long outing. So it's like, hey, let's just recover today, really low, light. Like let's get feeling good a little bit because you feel a little beat up after 135 pitches. So like schedules change and they're flexible, but like that was our general blueprint. But it's again my job to kind of there's the art and the science of coaching. That's kind of the art of it is like understanding when to flip and call an audible or a hot route and just and understand what other options you've got at your disposal.
No, that's perfect. We talked about the first time that we were like kind of nerding out at LSU. We also started talking about sports cards a little bit.
Oh
So
yeah.
since this is the personal episode, we don't have to get into details too much, but something that like, and again, as a strength and conditioning guy and somebody that I've nerded out with on movement patterns, knowing baseball players and that kind of stuff. how much do you apply what you know about the game and when you see somebody kind of like, oh, I think this kid's going to be a stud, right? And then want to go get some of their cards and stuff like that. It's a little bit of like insider trading almost, right?
Man, so for those who don't know, and this is like part of our intro conversation we had, like when I was in probably high school, like middle school, high school, like I loved collecting baseball cards. I was the kid who had like binders upon binders of just random cards, and you would just sift through them and spend 2 hours just sorting them a different way.
Yes, organizing them in
Yeah,
different ways.
just
This binder is this color, team, whatever,
yeah,
right? Yeah, I'm the
yeah. There's
same way.
like,
I knew it.
but yeah, binders organized by player, some by team. Like I loved it. And it was baseball, football, a little bit of basketball. Um, and then as I kind of got into college, I kind of like got sold off a lot of my collection or stored some of it at my mom's house, all that kind of stuff, and kind of went away from it and didn't think much about it. And then the whole sports card industry like exploded around COVID, and I'm sitting there on the outside going, man, this is way different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like way more in depth. There's way more money involved in it now. Like it was just like crazy eye opening. So it's something I've kind of followed along with, and then I've started to, it's piqued my interest. I've got some friends that are, do some consignment work and things like that. But to answer your question, like I haven't done a ton of that because
I
I
was
feel
wondering
like
if you did.
I feel like my scouting eye maybe isn't the best. But that would be a wild thing to start doing is like,
Yeah.
uh, analyzing like who I think is going to be good just based on their athletic profile or what it appears to be to me from the outside without any of like the hard insights or data or anything like that.
Yeah. That I always like to know because like a couple of my friends collect that play and they're like, yo, this guy's gonna be good, right? And I'm like, I kind of want to take his advice. He freaking knows the game. He's playing with them every day, right? And like from a movement, like we talk about injury prevention, right? And you could definitely probably see guys like, yeah, he throws 100 right now. And maybe what in the next episode we'll talk about like what you see in Shohei and why he might break down or whatever, right? But like maybe you see certain things of like, man, I think that guy might break down eventually, or damn, this guy's got the movement patterns, like he's gonna play for 20 years, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That'll be fun to go in
Yeah,
depth on
exactly.
on part two.
Good, good. Well, man, I gotta run, so thank you again. I know you're a busy man as well. But let's schedule this part two and really nerd out about the science and the exercise stuff and put your degree and the Cressy knowledge to work a little bit because as I'm playing again too, I have some questions just of like the things that you and I talked about from me specifically. So I think it would be a really fun episode.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again. Go get to your massage. I know you got some innings to eat here this
I
last month
know.
of the season.
I know, and I'm freaking getting old, bro. I feel it. So thank you, dude. All right, Chris, we'll talk soon. Thank you, man.
All right, we'll see you.